Susie, it's just the latest in a long line of things that have happened with Fournette that makes you question and makes the Jaguars question his immaturity and his responsibility. Missing rehab appointments, getting into a fight in a game against the Buffalo Bills, getting suspended, not keeping himself in shape and letting himself gain 20 pounds almost over the offseason. It looked like he had made strides in that area because he had a meeting with Doug Marrone at the end of the season, and they basically told him, you need to shape up, or there's going to be some consequences. So it looked like he made some progress there. He was out in Wyoming, working out with a former LSU strength coach, getting away from the distractions in his hometown of New Orleans, and then he gets arrested for basically not paying a $204 speeding ticket. The Jags have given him, we're building the offense around him, and he's shown them time and time again that he is just not a guy that they can rely on at this point.
So how do you expect the team to handle it going forward?
Well, I expect some internal discipline. The Jaguars sort of handle this kind of stuff internally as well without letting anybody know what the discipline really is. But, the NFL will take a look at it, see if it's a violation of the personal conduct policy. But here's where it really could hurt Fournette. As you know, he has an appeal pending with the NFL. The Jaguars took away the remaining guaranteed money in his contract after the one-game suspension. He was appealing that, and I can't imagine that this incident here is going to really do much to bolster his case.
Mike, appreciate the insight. Hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. In his rookie year, he was made inactive in Week 9 after missing a team photo. Last season, Fournette was ejected in Week 12 for fighting with Shaq Lawson, suspended a game. During their Week 14 loss, Fournette was caught on video obtained by TMZ threatening to fight a fan. And he was criticized by Executive Vice President Tom Coughlin for showing a lack of interest during their season finale last year. Obviously, it's been an up and down 2 years, if it tells you anything. They added 3 running backs in free agency. Josina, you've spoken to sources there. Take us inside the building, kind of what the feeling is.
Well, I talked to a source last night just to try to get reaction to this latest incident that we're talking about right now and to see how they feel about it. And even though our local reporter was talking about a list of things that he has done to maybe make this seem a little bit bigger than the actual incident himself, the source said, listen, this is not something that really moved, at least me or some of us in the inside. At the time that they heard about it, some of the people were leaving the building. And he said, for the most part, we actually feel like Leonard Fournette has been a model citizen since we talked to him. You mentioned at the end of that timeline, the season finale where, Tom Coughlin had to speak to him. He was seen on the sideline sitting beside a teammate, looking a little bit disengaged. And they said that they had to talk to him. For the most part, from the reports that they've heard, he's been staying on top of, the strength and conditioning, knowing that he really needs to come into this season and be prepared. When you compare how he did his rookie season, having over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and then missing about a half of the season, just 8 games with that hamstring injury that he incurred in the season opener against the Giants, he knows that he really has to come back, perform, contribute to this team, and have a good rushing, sustained performance for this offense to really elevate itself, particularly under a new quarterback. So I didn't get the impression that they thought it was a big deal. Like they said, this is not like a big, physical violence situation or domestic violence situation. But at the same time, we want to make sure that he's staying on the right path, but we're not going to blow it up.
Right. Well, on its own, again, we don't want to make this into something that this particular incident, it's the list that seems troublesome. You want to see some maturity.
There's no question. Look, Susie, when you start to build a resume of having personal and football character issues that really don't please the decision makers, what happens is, especially at running back, okay, there has to be some awareness as to what position you play and how people look at the position in the NFL. People interchange running backs very, very quickly. They will ship you out the door very, very quickly. And when you start doing these kinds of things, look, when the risk starts to outweigh the reward, and although this isn't major infractions, these aren't major behavioral issues, they are annoying issues. And when you are easily, well, I don't want to say easily replaced because he is a wonderful talent. There's no question about that. But there comes a point in time, especially when you're talking about this position, where people will just move on. And I'm not going to say that obviously it's reaching that point. I haven't talked to anybody in Jacksonville whether or not it's reaching that point. But I'm telling you, it's probably closer to that than someone saying, look, we're going to give you a bunch more chances. And Leonard needs to be aware of that because this is a team that has a lot of expectations. And that's just not going to be tolerated.
And chances run out. Organizations, they'll give you a chance after chance after chance, and all of a sudden they say, listen, it's time to cut ties. I think of it as a player in there, man, just pay your ticket. Just pay the ticket, get somebody to pay your ticket, or do something to make it easy on yourself. You know, I don't want to overreact to this either, but they're anticipating some type of shift offensively in Jacksonville with what they've done in this offseason. They got the quarterback that they want. They want Fournette to be a big part of it. So, I mean, it's April right now, and this is something that could have been avoided with the writing of a check and putting a stamp on it. Simple things like that. So you just want it to stop. That's all you want it to stop, because you want him to be the best football player he can be.
Doug Marrone has talked about kind of getting the heart and soul back into this team. So you want everybody, they're all in with their heart and soul. And maybe that's why it's troublesome, because you just want to know everybody's dedicated, right?
Well, you look at the team president, who are we talking about? We're talking about Tom Coughlin. He's a stickler.
Right.
We've all heard of Coughlin time, everyone having to be 5 minutes early. If he's worried about people being 5 minutes early for meetings, like, he's not going to be a guy that keeps putting up with this over and over and over. So I think that's a point that we got to consider as well.
But I feel like at the same time, this is a team that also really knows his influence on the offense. I happened to be covering that season opener when they were playing the Giants, and that rushing offense was going with Leonard Fournette before he hurt his hamstring. And then after the game against the Patriots, you really saw how his absence impacted that offense, let alone the play of the quarterback, and how the team performance started to disintegrate from there. So they know he is a cornerstone, is particularly when the quarterback play has not been certain. So he needs to just keep all of that going on and off the field so that they can get everything that they expect, especially after they went to the AFC Championship.
Because up until this point, I know they got Foles there now, but up until this point, you really didn't get life from the quarterback position. It was the physical domination of the offensive line in Fournette. He gets going, defense starts sitting up on the bench. All right, here we go. We got that run game going. We're pounding them now. That's what they want to continue with the quarterback that they have.